Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and there is a lot to cover here. Not just components and miniatures and all that, but there's a lot to cover here. I've made mistakes in yesterday's video, I'll clear some of that stuff up. There's early birds to be aware of, there's differences between new backers and old backers and all of that. And let's go ahead and jump into Wild Assent Lavon Rising. Now, as usual, timestamps down below, in particular, like if you want to jump to any relevant section. In particular, if you are a returning backer and you want to know all the stuff you should know about, the differences in miniature scaling, I'll have pictures comparing the old and the new. If you want to know the differences in, the pledge levels, the differences you have to jump into, your options as a returning backer, suggestions, all that stuff, there'll be timestamps down below towards the end of the video where I cover that. But before we jump into all the stuff, and there's a lot of it, first and foremost, if you are in any way considering backing this game, in any way whatsoever, if you had the remotest, in fact, honestly, if you're watching this video, you should probably already be backing the 72-hour early bird over here. Just go ahead and jump on in, set a reminder for yourself. I can recommend there's any number of reminder systems you can use. I like using follow up then. It's a little way I send myself an email and it pops back in like 7 days later. But the general idea is this is a 9-day long campaign. And the first 3 days, that's today, well, today's the second day already that you're watching this, which means you have today and tomorrow to go ahead and jump in on that early bird to get this miniature over here. Because if you change your mind later, if you have the FOMO, if you watch a review, if you see all your friends backing it or any kinds, well, if all your friends are backing it, just play their copy. But if there's any reason that you change your mind later in the campaign, you're going to want to get on the early bird. I always say this, back now, back early, set a reminder to cancel. It's totally fine. You can go ahead and cancel later. You just don't want to miss out on this. And this is not some small miniature either. If we go ahead and scroll down to the miniature scaling, if I can not give you a stroke on the way down, this is the miniature that is the 72-hour early bird. This one over here. Not this little guy over here, not this eensy-weensy little guy on the side. This gigantic guy over here is your 72-hour early bird. If you want in and you don't want to have to pay for that, because, what is that going to be on its own? $15, $20, somewhere in that range? We'll see. Either way, with that said, let's go ahead. Again, just trying to have your back here. Just back now, cancel later. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into this. Wild Assent Lavon Rising is going to be, and this is the part where I made a mistake yesterday, is going to be the expansion, not the standalone game in the Wild Assent universe. For whatever reason, and I have no excuses here, this is just me being wrong, I was under the impression that Wild Assent Lavon Rising was a standalone game. An impression that in my review yesterday, I said, hey, I recommend getting Lavon Rising over Wild Assent, but you can't do that. It's Wild Assent Lavon Rising along with Wild Assent, and that's because it uses components from both the core box and the Silverstream expansion that you had in the original thing, which means your options here are kind of getting all the content in order to use this narrative adventure that will use allies, components, boards, dice, all these different things from your original pledge of the game, or if you're coming here for the first time, from the base stuff you need. So it's an expansion, it is not standalone. I basically said it's standalone. I didn't say it's standalone, but I said get this instead of Wild Assent. I was wrong about that front in my video, so apologies for anyone whose hopes I got up, only to then see a $370 pledge to go ahead and get everything, including Lavon Rising, and sadly and unfortunately, or fortunately depending how you look at it, Lavon Rising does take the good parts about Wild Assent and only further improves upon them. So I do kind of recommend getting Lavon Rising, but it's going to involve spending a lot of money. Past that, in terms of the general campaign, for those who didn't watch my review or those who have no idea what I'm talking about, Wild Assent is going to be a miniature skirmish game, not really a boss hunter in the typical sense, because you're going to be fighting a variety of beasts in this game. Scrolling past the early bird, all the miniatures here are going to look absolutely amazing, by the way, but keep in mind renders, we'll talk about that as well. The miniatures do actually look amazing though. But over here, you're going to have a map over here. This is one of the expansion maps over here. And in general, in this game, you're going on what's called the hunt, in the cooperative mode at least. You're going on the hunt and you're going to be hunting and killing some and capturing other monsters along the way. Killing is important because it's easier. Capturing is important because that's how you level up your characters. That's how you level up your encampment. You're going to gather gold. You're going to sell the creatures at the markets. And that's something you're going to be constantly trying to balance in the game. And that's going to be the main hunt mode, which is going to be taking place across 10 missions. And in the base game of Wild Assent, those 10 missions are either just 10, missions. Mission 1, Mission 2, Mission 3, no story whatsoever. Or alternatively, there is a narrative-based campaign that is incredibly linear in what it's trying to do. So the base game, again, is giving you either 10 missions, just followed by hunt and kill, followed by the encampment, rinse and repeat back and forth 10 times, or going through a campaign which is a little bit more guided. Choose this character, do that. You can't kill creatures this round. You can't do that this round. Different kinds of things, a little more guided. That's going to be the base game of Wild Assent. That is only going to be the cooperative aspect of the game. There also is an arena mode, which, as much as I love this game, I haven't actually played the arena mode yet. I probably Probably should do that at some point. But the arena mode is going to basically be head-to-head, drafting your various creatures, your various hunters, your various seekers, I believe, your seekers and your creatures in an arena while edicts are being cast all around. You have different things that are happening in this arena mode using the various equipment. Generally speaking, using the same core system, but in a head-to-head skirmish battle, which honestly sounds pretty fun. Just haven't gotten around to playing that mode yet. That's going to be the base idea of Wild Assent. The Silverstream expansion is going to be adding more content to that, more seekers, more monsters, more workers, more gear, all the good things you want in the game just being added to that game, including, I believe, a more campaign aspects as well. I have to double check it. I don't actually have, I have, but I haven't actually played all the content in the expansion. And then Lavon Rising. Lavon Rising is going to be bringing you most of the same stuff, but with more seekers, more monsters, more miniatures, bigger miniatures, and then the parts that are more important is going to be giving you a variety of ways to actually play the game that aren't present in the original game. You're going to be going through different campaigns where you can potentially be going through upgrade paths that don't use the encampment at all. Rather, you upgrade through a narrative journey. Speaking of narrative journey, it's going to be giving you a choose your own adventure style narrative journey, which is actually not a linear campaign, but a fully replayable campaign with different pathways that you'll want to go down. I say you'll want to go down because I only had the basic sample tutorial campaign book, which is present. You can go ahead and download that. And then that made me want to keep diving into it again. It's going to have aspects of branching pathways, actually legitimate branching pathways where you do this mission versus that mission, depending on what you chose, as well as a certain degree of crossing, a certain degree of, you might choose this, but you might still encounter that particular scenario along the way. So a little bit of both, some degrees of fully branching choice different aspects, as well as some degrees of crossing over the same scenarios, or the same basic path, but perhaps with a different narrative aspect before and after, things like that in the Lavon Rising expansion. It's going to be giving you something called the path of various expansion cards, which are going to be ways of developing your seekers, ways of choosing different paths that you can then upgrade your seekers, as well as seeker-specific equipment, which are basically gear and equipment that your specific seeker has that complements your specific set of skills in this game. And that is a short overview of both Wild Assent as well as the Lavon Rising expansion in terms of the stuff there. As far as pledge levels, let's go to pledge levels, and there's going to be a lot to cover, like I said already, so we're going to be jumping around a bit, timestamps, like I said already. Pledge levels are going to be a few different options. The one that has been chosen the most and the one that is the main pitch of this campaign is going to be the Lavon Rising pledge at $369, but it's not $369. By the time you're done with the shipping, with the there's no VAT. There's FAQ on VAT, but depending on where you are, there's no VAT. VAT's covered and absorbed. But as far as the $369, you're going to be paying shipping as well for that pledge, which is going to run you another $50 or so, and that's just for Wave 1. Wave 2 is undetermined and will be determined, later, because they're not quoting that out yet, because the state of the shipping world is constantly changing. If you've been following my channel or any board game media, then you probably know that already. If you've been in various Facebook groups, then basically just understand that the freight costs around the world are kind of in a state of flux right now, which is why they're not really even estimating Wave 2. They're estimating Wave 1, because Wave 1 is closer to launching, since they have all these stuff developed. They're going to be reprinting things. We'll talk about that as well, the difference between the original Wild Assent and the new Wild Assent, but that's basically going to be the core pledge over here. And that $369 pledge level over there is giving you a whole lot of boxes. We're getting the Wild Assent core game, the Shadows of the Silverstream expansion, the stretch goal box in Wave 2, the stretch goal box in Wave 1, the Lavon Rising expansion, and the Dangers of the Wild. So we have 5 of those 7 boxes are going to be in Wave 2, with the Wild Assent core game and Shadows of the Silverstream, 4 of the 7 boxes are Wave 2. The original stretch goal box and Wild Assent core game and Shadows of the Silverstream expansion are going to be in Wave 1. That's going to be the core pledge that's being pitched to people. The $119, you can get the core pledge, just going to be the base game of Wild Assent. I can tell you from having played Wild Assent that this is still something worth looking into. It's going to have gorgeous miniatures, excellent gameplay, tons of cards and abilities, a lot of content for the game. I can tell you that I went through I've played the base game I think 12 times now, and before we even talk about Lavon Rising, and those 12 times were all using only core content. I didn't bother mixing in all the extra stuff until after I had fully finished my campaign. So I fully finished my campaign, I taught a few people as well, those are the extra 2 plays, and then I mixed in all the content, which I haven't actually played with any of the expansion content yet. So that $119, when I gave this game a 5 out of 5, it was based on that core pledge. For $239, you got the Shadow of the Silverstream expansion, which is going to be giving you all that extra content that is really cool and has lots of fun miniatures and more variety, lots more variety. But I don't need it, but it's cool. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm happy with all the extra miniatures and all of that. And then over here we have, that's going to be, these are going to be the main core pledges over here. It looks like they changed the Interesting. It looks like they changed the reward page since I was reviewing this earlier today to take away the extra pledges for returning backers. So that's a thing. Basically, mid-campaign, I'm going to have to kind of update you on what's going on there. Interesting. So let's keep going through this because apparently they changed stuff. In any case, moving on. Ooh, game trays. Ooh, I'm so excited. Okay, cool. I didn't realize that was a thing. But going back to what's going on over here. So we have stretch goals over here. We'll talk about returning backers at the end of the campaign as well. I'll kind of have to make this up as I go along because apparently they removed some pledges from the page. But we'll go ahead and continue talking about that. Or are they only available? I'll figure stuff out. We may have to pause this video at some point. In any case, moving on. So what? Oh, it's interesting. It's probably because I'm logged in incognito mode. We'll go towards this at the end of the campaign, at the end of the video. So go again at the end of the video. I'll have a timestamp so you can see all the stuff. I'm just encountering different things than I saw earlier today. So, stretch goals. Let's go ahead and go through the stretch goals, starting from the bottom up so we can see them all. It's showing you the most recent stuff, but we have the Wart, which is a load crossover. We have Daniel Stoica from the Order of the Vampires. These are various other games. We have the Godfell Unicorn. We have some new workers. I actually want new workers just as much as I want more miniatures. We have new equipment cards. Again, they're fun stuff. We have more miniatures. We have Rathic. We have Boneback Boars. We have a new path. So this is going to be a fully new path, a new upgraded path for your characters. We have the new workers, more new workers. We have a daily unlock coming tomorrow. They don't show us much. They just show us this, hidden thing over here. And then we have 3 crevice keepers over here, as well as game trays when we hit $500,000. I am just seeing this one for the first time. It wasn't here when I looked at this earlier today, and I am excited. And speaking of which, by the way, we're already crossing, what are we at? We're at like 408,000, something like that right now. And this is, the first night of the campaign, and that's already crossing Stormsunder. Stormsunder's day 1 only hit 315,000, and that was on Kickstarter. And on GameFound, we're already at 408,000, and it's likely to cross, I would say, probably in the range of $500,000 tonight on day 1, which is excellent. I think this campaign will probably hit in the range of 1.5 to 2 million by the time it's done, but it does depend. They do have that early backer, the bonus for anyone who followed the campaign page, which is going to be 13,000 people who follow the campaign page. Plus, of course, that 72-hour campaign, the 72-hour early bird, which once that tapers off, we'll see a bit of a drop-off. As far as add-ons, we have the Dalkerta War Rider, which is going to be a $15 add-on, but this is going to be free to you if you follow the campaign page. So if you follow the campaign page, then you should be getting this. They are going to show you that later. It's in the FAQ. They cover how to know if you did or didn't, but that's going to be a $15 add-on otherwise. And then we have the art and the lore book, which I think they should be showing like some pictures just to tempt you into this. But the art and the lore book is over here. And then over here we have the art and the lore book too, as well as the Wild Assent graphic novel, which I am all over because basically the campaign and the art and the story and the everything is just full of humor and gorgeous art and story that has me intrigued in the game. And now we're going to go into the pledge content summary over here. So, summary over here is going to be 2 boxes for the Wild Assent. This is going to be the Wild Assent core game plus stretch goals, where we have 49 miniatures, a whole bunch of cards, 2 large double-sided game board, the 16 dice, 28 pages, all that, 356 various tokens, and that's just a lot of content there. Then if you get the Silverstream expansion, the Shadows of Silverstream expansion, you're getting all of this, which is going to be 4 boxes, 76 miniatures, gorgeous miniatures, by the way. I have both an unboxing of the original Wild Assent, as well as an unboxing of the Lavon Rising stretch goals and all, not stretch goals, the Lavon Rising content, some of it, not all of it, that you can check out, as well as partial unboxing of Stormsunder, actual Stormsunder PVC miniatures, so final production stuff that you'd be getting. Then, for 194 miniatures, the Wild Assent core game, this is going to be bringing you the all-in over here. This is going to be the thing that's going to be costing you $369. This is going to be 7 boxes, 194 miniatures, 101 punchboard cards, those are like larger cards basically for various seekers or things like that, 1,200 cards, 4 double-sided game boards, 16 custom dice, 152 pages, 615 various tokens, 152 pages, and this might seem like a great deal over here, but I'm going to take a bit of a hard pivot over here and show you just how good a deal Stormsunder was. Okay, this over here is Stormsunder. This is going to be the pledge for Stormsunder, which I'm showing it to you because it is still available to late pledge if you want to get this. But forgetting for a second the differences between Stormsunder and Wild Assent, we'll get to that in a second. We have over here 6 boxes, okay, so 6 boxes, but I'm not counting boxes here. 348 miniatures instead of 194 miniatures, same scale. We have 1,200 cards versus 2,956 cards, 43 double-sided map tiles, but boards versus map tiles is different, 900 pages campaign book versus 152 pages campaign book. This is the difference here. We're getting basically over double the amount of cards, we're getting more than almost double the amount of miniatures, and then 4 or 5 times the campaign page depth and everything else in Stormsunder, and that's all costing you an extra $100. Okay, so it's only an extra $100, which $449 is not a small amount of money. I'm not trying to in any way pretend it is, but this video has kind of hard pivoted from being a pitch for Wild Assent to being a pitch for Stormsunder, because I did not realize just how good a deal Stormsunder was until I was already all over Wild Assent and realized just how much content Stormsunder has. Past that, some differences between the two games is Stormsunder is going to be a much longer, in-depth campaign. It's one that, despite the content that you're getting, and I am all in on Stormsunder, despite the content, if I had to recommend one, well, that's not true. If I had to pick one, I would pick Wild Assent first, because I've played it, and I actually prefer shorter, more accessible campaigns than longer, in-depth ones. But if content is your be-all and end-all, Stormsunder was an incredible back that is still available to late pledge, so that's kind of a hard pivot from Wild Assent to Stormsunder there, both of them having gorgeous miniatures. And like I said already, my Wild Assent Lavon Rising unboxing has both Wild Assent miniatures and Stormsunder miniatures, as well as Storm Brush miniatures, so you can check out all that. It is not cheap. Especially if you Stormbrush stuff, you could be looking at spending $800 to $900 on Stormsunder. That's more than an investment. That's 2 major appliances. That just, married and 4 kids, I think in games in terms of appliances. But either way, that's going to be a lot of content there. From there, what do we have here? This is going to be just tons of pages full of gorgeous miniatures. Now, gorgeous miniatures is the key word. These are gorgeous renders, absolutely gorgeous. Understand that these renders are deceptive in how good they are, how appealing they are compared to the final product. And I don't mean the detail. The detail is absolutely there. Again, check out my unboxings. There's a ton of detail, but rather the size and the scale, all these pages and pages and pages full of miniatures, it's going to be smaller and less impressive on your table. Not impressive. In fact, I would argue that the gap between renders and final product on a Lazy Squire Games content is a very minimal gap compared to other games. But understand that each of these gorgeous miniatures that looks amazing up front like this, when they're this big in front of you, they are less impressive. I'm not saying don't get the game. I'm not saying the game's not impressive. I'm saying that just understand this is always going to look better than what's on your table. So if you're backing this just because of the sheer eye candy of things, I recommend taking a look at the unboxings and try to be swayed or not swayed by the various unboxings, by King of Average, by myself, by anyone else who's done an unboxing of this content. Be swayed by the content that is actually there and not the renders in the screen in front of you. That said, this stuff is absolutely gorgeous. Again, like this guy over here. This guy's absolutely amazing. In front of the screen like this, he looks ridiculously cool. In front of you, he's this size, so, take that into account. Although also granted, I had the original Wild Assent, which has a smaller scale than the new Wild Assent, so factor that in as well. Like this guy over here, this Demon Wretch, is much bigger in the new content. So lots of things changing, factor that all in. I'm just going to slowly scroll through just tons and tons of miniatures while I take a sip of coffee. Moving on, continuing, I'm just going to keep scrolling. This is like a slow crawl through just way too much content. Like unnecessary amount of content. You genuinely do not need this much content. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I'm going to keep going. So let's go ahead and scroll through this faster because I can't slow crawl through everything here. It would take absolutely forever. Look at this guy. And he looks cool. Again, he looks cool. But, in fact, that's him on the screen, and that's him in real life, okay? Now, I'm not sure if I'm making this more or less tempting for you, because he does look pretty cool. Honestly, he does look pretty cool. So, I'm not sure if I'm helping the problem, making it worse. But, and in fact, oh my gosh. Uh-oh, I still have the dragon. Whoops. I sent down the prototype to someone else, and I still have the dragon. Okay, we'll have to figure that problem out later. You see, this is the fun part about mid-video stuff. You get to learn things along with me. So, these things over here, these are going to be various content for the new expansion stuff for the new Lavon Rising. These are going to be various miniatures. Again, some of these things you've seen if you've watched my unboxing. These are going to be token holders, adorable little token holders that will hold these various charges that you'll be collecting, charges that will help your enemies if they get them, but will help you if you get them, so you're trying to constantly pick up these charges from various temples or whatever they're called around the arena. You're going to have, again, more seekers, more cards, just tons of extra things for these seekers, the various upgrade paths and the equipment that's unique to each seeker. So just going through tons of stuff over here, just more stuff, and dinosaurs, because apparently dinosaurs. And then this dragon over here, give me a second. So, okay, you see, this guy over here, who apparently I didn't send on to the next content creator who is getting the prototype, but this is going to be the dragon in front of the screen, and this is going to be the dragon over here. Again, it absolutely is gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that pose. That's the difference between the final, and keep in mind, this isn't actually final, this is going to be not a PVC miniature finished, but again, if you're on the fence or in any way uncertain, check out my unboxing where I do show you PVC quality from Stormsunder. So these miniatures are gorgeous, they are insane, and yes, I'd want that woolly mammoth. I'd almost rather have had that in the prototype. That would have been so much cooler, but tons and tons of content. And again, the dragon. Why are they showing this dragon again? They already showed us the dragon. There's only one dragon, I think. I'm pretty sure there's only one dragon. Either way. Moving on, just through tons and tons of content. And then we have more boards. By the way, more game boards over here. I definitely want more game boards. Also want all this equipment, by the way. The Path of the Valiants, you know, the Seeker-specific equipment, all these things. It's just more upgrade paths for your Seekers. And then we have new boards that will give you more immersive different ways to jump into this universe, more options. I was always fine with the original board, but one of the things I did comment is I loved the art. In my review, I believe I commented that I love the art of the game, I love the miniatures, all that stuff was excellent, but the original board art I did feel was a little bit lacking, and these over here look so much better. I'm so much more interested not just in the art aspect, but in the narrative aspect, that whatever picture they're painting in the arena mode or whatever it is will match up with that. Gameplay overview. So, the gameplay overview, we have lots of stuff over here. And by the way, I'm not trying to cover every little piece of text that they talk about, but I do recommend reading through the campaign. They are hilarious. The way they write these things is absolutely... I went to the wilds once. A flower ate my horse, and then a dinosaur ate the flower. Assuming the dinosaur was an herbivore, does that mean he lost his vegetarian cred? I certainly didn't hang around to ask. The entire page is full of text like that. The guy has a degree of humor that every time he ever wrote an update on the original Wild Assent, I enjoyed reading through the updates, through the little text around every single miniature, tons of pictures of miniatures, along with the text around it. It was amusing to read. We have just, again, more and more content. I just can't stop scrolling. It's ridiculous. Over here, you can click to read the demo rulebook, so you can go ahead and see that. That's going to give you the demo campaign book, That's going to give you a variety of branching pathways with a tempting choice of which way to go, what to unleash, how to play, all that stuff. Some of them will intersect with the same stuff. Others will give you different options of who you ally with, which story, narrative paths you'll choose, and that's all in just the demo campaign book. Forget the final thing. Over here, we're going to have some various reviews. Over here, I gave it a 5+ out of 5 because I gave the original game a 5, and I like Lavon Rising even more, so it's a 5+. It's still just a 5. We're going to have gameplay as well as a review with Quackalope, so you can check this out. Usually in campaign games, when I kill my allies, it's by mistake. Not this time. Sorry, Rose. I can't wait to dive back in. And that's because we killed Rose. We killed one of our friends because we were given a choice, and we made the right choice. I want to say the right choice. Here's going to be my original review of the game. We're going to have an unboxing from King of Average. We're going to have a How to Play from Becca Scott. We're going to have Jeremy Howard. And by the way, the content creators, something I should tell you here. Make sure to not just watch my review, to watch Jeremy Howard's review, his review over there. We're going to have, if you scroll further down past the unboxings, we're going to have reviews. We're going to have Adam Smith from Rolling Solo. I don't know if he did a review. He has a ton of content playing the game, though, so if you want to get a feel for it yourself, you can watch that. Make sure to watch Game Brigade did a review. We have Liege of Games, and all of us love the game. We all have critiques. I think one of the common critiques was the rulebook. We had different critiques past that. The enemy AI, I don't remember who said what, but I can tell you, for example, the enemy AI may not be what you're looking for. Maybe a little too simpler than what you're looking for, especially if you're coming to this as a KDM fan. But past the four of us, if you want to be anti-sold in this game, I highly recommend watching One Stop Coop Shop, because he has a 5 and 5 covering Wild Assent, and he is far more mixed on it. Not negative, but more mixed. Because I can't help but try to sell you on this game. I really enjoy it, and many of the other content creators here have as well. But also make sure you're coming in well informed. Make sure you're checking out the other content creators who may not show up on this page because, you know, they're more mixed in their feedback. So check out One Stop Coop Shop. He's the only one who I've actually seen that was mixed, and like I said already, it was mixed. But get that opposing standpoint, get that opposing viewpoint of what this game is and whether it's for you before dropping $370 on this campaign. And that's just solely... Oh, by the way, one more thing over here, just because I talk about how he's funny and all that. Where are the content creators? I scrolled right past it. So we have over here, we have... Where is it? Alex, in the comments of the video, Alex gave Wild Assent a 5 out of 5 in the comments of the video, which is akin to writing it on the back of the Declaration of Independence in invisible ink. Which, again, is amusing because I forgot to rate it a 5 out of 5. I just gushed about it, and then I forgot to give a rating, so I put it in the comments of the video instead, and a pinned comment, which is admittedly not great. Anyways, scrolling past that, continuing on, anything else, we have miniature scaling over here, you can check that out, and I think that's basically going to be, shipping as well, shipping over here, and then you can check out anything in the FAQ as well. So we have 27 to 37 for the core game, all the way up to 37 to 47 for the all-in pledge, and then, of course, here's a link to Stormsunder in case you want to go ahead and late pledge that as well. So, Should you back it? Should you not? And again, after this, we'll talk about late backers, original backers, and what your options are there. Should you back it? Should you not? Wild Assent is an incredible game. Most of the people who have played it have enjoyed it and have had incredibly positive things to say. That bodes well for this holding its value, because the amount of content you get is a lot. It's an absolute lot. And the intro price is anywhere between $120 plus shipping, all the way up to $450 once you factor in all the shipping and everything else. That is a lot of money to pay for this game. But if you look at the secondhand prices on the marketplace so far, they already is holding its value just fine. If you look at people who are selling their pledges of Wild Assent, they are already getting their money back even now, because there's been there's been mostly positive buzz around this game. This game is promising you KDM Light, and I haven't played KDM. Jeremy Howard has, and he's the one who called it KDM Light, so I'll take his word for it. But overall, it is giving you a more accessible version of KDM. It's giving you a 10 campaign mission. I finished my whole 10 campaign arc in roughly 15 hours, I want to say, in terms of that's a much more accessible entry point to this game. And I'm happy to have 15 hours. You might be looking for more, in which case, Stormsunder or KDM. But I'm happy to have 15 hours because then I can dive into it again with different characters, different pathways, different ways of upgrading my characters, things that Wild Assent Lavon Rising is introducing. And then in addition to that, with Lavon Rising, it's going to be introducing narrative pathways that I can choose different things. So when I dive into it again, this time I won't kill Rose. I'll probably still kill Rose again, because why not? But you can choose different pathways to go down, both narratively, both upgrades, both mechanically, ways you'll fight the game. I really enjoy this game. Most people who've played it have enjoyed this game, and they've done so after persevering through a rulebook that was not fun to get through. It left a lot of things to the imagination, a lot of judgment calls you have to make, a lot of things you just didn't know, but it still delivered an experience that was incredible, with miniatures, art, graphics, production, all that was incredible. And it was a 2-year wait to get here. This game was overdue. Stormsunder as well is likely going to be overdue. In fact, Lavon Rising may well be overdue as well, which we'll talk about soon. But overall, this is a game that so far has been holding its value, and I believe it will only continue to hold its value if you back this game. I'm confident of it, because in fact, I'll give it my Patreon insurance pick of the month, because I believe it'll hold its value. I believe that this is something that people love and is going to be hard to get, which only adds up well for you, practically speaking. As far as reasons you shouldn't back it, let me give you a bunch, because there will be a bunch. To begin with, Lazy Squire Games has historically been late on their games so far. They only have Wild Assent and then Stormsunder and now Lavon Rising, so historically is a small subset, but I'm assuming if Stormsunder is anything to go by, and granted the state of the world adds all kinds of reasons or excuses or all that, but it's still, after a 2-year wait on Wild Assent, being basically a year overdue their projected date, it doesn't bode well the continued delays that we're going to see over here. I believe everything you're getting from Lazy Squire Games will be worth the wait. I am following every campaign they ever put out. I'm going to be getting anything they do, regardless, well, not anything they do necessarily. They could put out who knows what, but I'm going to be paying attention to everything they do. I believe they are producing solid games with incredible art, with incredible story, with tons of detail in terms of the miniatures, the sculpting, everything. They are basically checking every single box other than being on time. And I'd rather a game be late and deliver what I'm looking for than a game be on time and not be. But understand that you are likely signing up for a wait. Now, Lavon Rising might be a little different. Because Wave 1 is all developed effectively and they're just doing, new miniatures and stuff like that, the wait, the gap is likely to be lower. But again, I would say understand that it may well be late, just because until they have a track record of being closer to on time, you have to go with that aspect of things. The second thing to consider is that I would say going all in on this game, I believe, will hold its value a lot more than that base pledge alone. That base pledge alone runs the risk of the fact that on the secondhand market, you may well have people who are selling their original copies of the game who are just flooding the market with tons of copies of a game that doesn't share the same scale with the new game. The same basic game, the same basic contents, but slight differences to the miniatures, slight differences to the scale, and so that original base pledge as well, if you want to test out this game, and if you're patient, you may be able to pick this up for a decent price. I say may because as of right now, the copies that are being sold secondhand are still more than your entry point to this game over here, so I'm not certain there. But overall, I believe it'll hold its value. Overall, I'll give that $369 pledge a Patreon insurance guarantee, which is basically a short version. If you're a Patreon, I'll guarantee your pledge. Details in the link. I'll throw a link down below, but details to that. And then lastly, that brings us to new backer versus old backer kind of situation. So to begin with, let me go ahead and pull up Wild Assent on my other screen over here off to the side, because I want to see if you can only see certain pledge levels if you... Oh, wow. Really did that. That's so interesting. That's good on GameFound. Good on GameFound for having that option. So effectively what I'm seeing over here is basically if you're a new backer, if you're a returning backer, then you have this additional option over here where we can go ahead and punch that over here. Let me go ahead and make sure you can see everything. So you have these options over here where you can do returning backers only, returning backers. These are only if you are returning backers to the game. Effectively, if you are someone who has backed the original Wild Assent and you are now dealing with the fact that they slightly shifted everything up and it's not perfectly compatible, it's a little compatible, but it's not perfectly compatible, then they have returning backer pledges that are tied to your email. If you had the same email you used for the original campaign is going to be present here. And those options are going to be number one, returning backers pledge Lavon Rising only. For $130, you get all the new content. Make sure if you choose this that you have the core game and the Shadows of the Silverstream expansion because it's going to use content from both. If you only have the core game, you are going to be missing content. So be very, very careful. If you have core game only and you do not have Shadows of the Silverstream, then do not back this pledge over here for the $130 Lavon Rising only. So that's option one. Option one is effectively you're getting a discount on the new content. Instead of paying whatever, the $369 for all the content, you're getting this just as it is, but you will have a slightly mismatched bundle. So that factor that in. Option two is going to be the returning backers pledge over here, which for $240, which is effectively a $130 discount off the all-in pledge over here, roughly $369 versus $239, $130 discount off that over there. You're going to be getting all the content in the same pledge level that's going to cost somebody else $369 is going to cost you $240. That is only available if you're a returning backer. Effectively, Wild Assent, Laser Squire Games is saying that we're really sorry that you spent a lot of money on our game and that you may want to buy new content entirely to make everything match, and so here you go. And you might be saying as a returning backer, but hey, I spent $200 on my game, this is not a $200 discount. And my answer to you is, sell your copy. I guarantee you want to list your copy for $150 right now. I guarantee you can get that on the market. It's easy. People want this game right now. So you can sell your copy for a discounted price and then buy this for the all-in, as long as you do this now. If you wait too long, that may not be an option. But yeah, so you're fully covered as a returning backer. As far as miniature scaling size, so miniature scaling size is going to be as follows. If you want to look over here, we have this. This is going to be an image of two miniatures from the new Wild Assent, from the Lavon Rising, with the original side by side. Now, understand, this is not the final PVC. These are likely going to shrink a little bit. So the gap in sizing you're seeing is a little bit more exaggerated than it would otherwise be. There is a gap here, but it's a little bit more exaggerated than it would otherwise be. And if you want to see the exact characters, these are the two characters with slight differences to the sculpting, but these are going to be side by side if you want to see him and how he looks. So this is going to be a side by side. Understand that you will be playing with a different scale if you choose to get the new content with the old content, but the new content. And that's basically going to be your sizing difference. And lastly, understand that if you back this game, there likely will be other things in the Pledge Manager. If Stormsunder is anything to go by, there will be more content in the Pledge Manager. Oh, look at this cool little base. I didn't even see her. Valor Clea, I love her. Okay, great. Anyways, new content, and there'll likely be new content in the Pledge Manager. There will likely be Stormbrush as well. I see no reason why they would not want to offer Stormbrush as an opportunity to upgrade your pledge. With the amount of miniatures they have, they have 200 miniatures. I would say you're probably looking in at around the range of $150 to Stormbrush that. That's a pure projection on my part, just judging by Stormsunder and applying it outwards. It might be a little more. I'm trying to remember exactly how much it was. It might be a little more. I don't remember exactly what it was, but basically those are going to be options that you may be tempted by. So if you don't want to be tempted by even more ways to spend money on this game, the Pledge Manager, when it opens, likely will have options for you. That's not even accounting for any add-ons that get revealed during the campaign or in the Pledge Manager down the road. That was a lot of information. I apologize for the length of this video. 33 minutes, not that bad, but apologies for the length of how much stuff to go through over here. There's just a lot to cover around a game that is excellent, a game that is coming back to GameFound, a game that has tons of new content, and again, a reminder for the second time that the Stormsunder Pledge is an even better deal, all things considered. 900 pages of campaign book. Okay, 900 pages. If you download, do me a favor, go ahead and download the 30-page campaign book in Wild Assent and compare the amount of branching pathways they give you in 30 pages. 900 pages of the campaign book. I cannot stress that enough. Either way, I'm pretty excited. That might be obvious. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and have a good one.